So, I'm sitting around waiting for someone else to make themselves dinner. They're probably gonna be up to 7:30, so making dinner for themselves, and I'm like, oh, that's atrocious. They didn't want to cook me dinner anymore, so I'm just cooking myself dinner. I didn't really feel like Alfredo because they said it, so it's like yesterday. I was gonna try the fritters, but I didn't feel like eating any of them because they started to get angry that I didn't want as many fritters as I normally get because they have the fresh eggs in them. And sometimes I sort of like, I basically just wanted to try one first to see if I can stomach it. Because sometimes with fresh eggs, I just don't find them sterile enough or something. There's something about fresh eggs that sort of make me want to throw up, right? And I don't think it's an unreasonable request to just have a trial first because you're just uncertain. Because when I had pancakes the other day, I couldn't eat many at all, and I usually eat like 4 or 5 pancakes at a time. And because they were made with fresh egg, I only had two, and that was like me almost wanting to throw up by the end of it. And I literally like had to eat something sweet afterwards to overcome this idea that I couldn't stomach it very well. And so that's happened the other day. And so last night when we were having something with egg in it, I was like, I'm unsure how I'll react. And so I didn't think it was an abnormal request, but they treat me with discrimination quite a bit. And then they're like, with other relatives, they'll like allow other relatives to choose and be like, whatever you feel like. But with me, it's like they start to get angry and argumentative, like I was being ridiculous or childish. And I just said, well, I told you before, once you get eggs, I might not eat eggs because I usually have issues with fresh eggs. It's not like I'm trying to be difficult, it's just my natural reaction a lot. And so, unless eggs are like just in a cake or dressed up somehow, I really have issues. Like, if I were living by myself, I would still have issues, trying to eat the fresh egg. And I mean, I think the eggs themselves taste great. I mean, I had the pancake the other day and I'm like, oh my gosh, this egg tastes really good. I mean, it makes you feel good. But there's something like, it to me just doesn't taste sterile enough. As though there's some sort of active germ in it and it makes me want to puke. So now they're not cooking me dinner, they're just cooking themselves dinner. And they make like, sometimes they take an hour making dinner, so that means I'm going to have dinner either extra early or extra late since they're just going to bound into the kitchen and make whatever themselves at the more timely time when I usually have dinner. And it's like so annoying that I have to like step around them now. And it's like, yesterday I did want to do that though. I did want to just make my own dinner rather than them bother cooking and then me saying, I'm not sure if I actually want to eat this. Because it's only because it's fresh egg that I'm having hesitations. And it's not a bad thing that I get to do my own cooking necessarily. It's just like annoying that we have to tiptoe around each other. And I don't know, if I get kicked out in the near future, it's probably because I'm not eating, we're not having like meals together anymore and stuff. It's like disconnecting you further. But yeah, I think it's just going to be an exhaustive, stroppy argument. It wasn't supposed to turn into an argument. I mean, that's just how I feel. Like, I feel like I'm not uncertain I can stomach the egg. And I was gonna trial the patty yesterday, but because they made me upset and I didn't really feel like being in their presence and everything, I just came into my room like pretty stroppily afterwards. After I just devoured whatever I knew I could eat, and I didn't touch the eggs. But I could have tried it, but I didn't want to try it because they were being too stroppy for me, and I didn't even want to try it. Um, for all I know, it could be fine. But like you said, I mean, they just turned too argumentative, like I was being childish or, silly. And they just want to argue you off your ideals when it's your opinion. And you're going, what gives? I mean, you know how to be considerate to other people's tastes. I mean, you make salad for relatives who don't know if they want to eat salad, and sometimes they'll be like, oh, we don't want salad, or we don't want that kind of dessert. Um, and they're fine with that. And then if you say that, though, it's like a big drama. And it's like so annoying that you're still on the slanted side where they just want to argue with you, and you're like, why the hell am I living here, really? All yesterday I was like gonna say I don't want you cooking for me anymore. Don't worry about it. I'll just make my own meals. I can cook. Don't worry about it. I'll just cook my own freaking meals so that you don't have to bother to try, and then be put out with the idea that I may or may not eat it, depending on how it tastes like. So, all yesterday I was thinking I should tell them, don't bother cooking me. I'll just cook myself. I mean, I can cook just as good as you. They come up with a few more versions of inventive recipes than me. But, if I get bored of my own cooking, I can just flip through a cookbook and make something new for myself. And I can even try egg. I don't know if I'm going to eat it or not, but I probably am going to trial a fresh egg in the future. But yesterday I didn't want to trial it because it's like, I didn't want to trial it because they were having that attitude problem. But it's like, essentially, yeah. And so now I'm like cooking for myself anyways. And I'm like, well, this is going to be a disconnection. Why am I just laying around not doing anything? I should like be speed typing story ideas in the hope that I'll hit it big. But at the moment I'm just like sensitively, I should be on the computer all day, not, doing the yard work. I've almost finished the paddock though. I'm just practicing yard work, just doing it at leisure because I don't feel like sitting on a computer all day when I'm not working. And I don't think I have any shifts this week. So I've got all the time in the world to do some yard work, but I just end up staring at the yard and the chickens all day. Today it was like so exciting to try and get the chickens to come out and venture off into the yard, but essentially, like, I don't know. I've basically chopped down all the weeds, and then it's like, get me a week off work, and I'll be chopping through the third paddock too. I don't need to stay on the computer all day and night for that, but it's useful to get your skills up, but I don't know. I feel pretty tired of this place. Sort of feel like moving on, but I'm incapacitated by income. I'm always like thinking I really should do something more. I want to go venturing off around the world, but I missed my cue at the beginning of this year, around March or April. They had something going on and I didn't pick it up. And I'm like, I'm going to regret that, not bothering, because I didn't feel like traveling at the time. I was like, I want to do it, but I couldn't be, but like, I can't imagine myself traveling. So, but, so I didn't end up doing it. I'm like, I'm going to regret that. So I'll just keep it in mind. Yeah, just in the future. I'll probably do it in the future. Yeah, just visit this place, go through who knows what. But I feel like I'm pretty much wanting to be in retirement mode, and I have no house and I have no money. And I'm like, that is gonna be a big problem for me because I'm like still my 16-year-old self, but I'm like no longer 16, But I'm still got like these daydreams of earning income and having money someday. And it's like, but you're not 16 anymore. It's like you're so much older than that, and it's like you're still clinging on to these raw essentials that you wanted ever since you were 16. And it's like, really, are you still on that same page now? People are gonna, if they knew me, they would say to you, really, are you still on that same page? And you're like going, yep, yeah, pretty much, But I don't know my future. Can't tell my crystal ball. I'm just like very, very floating on it. I spent all afternoon talking about the kinds of relationships I wouldn't want, and I don't have any relationships which I would want. So, literally, unless I'm talking about something flamboyant, my energy is not picking up its speed with relationships. So, um, so I'm like, have it's probably spent 2 and 4 hours talking about the relationships just to myself, the relationships that I wouldn't want. And then I'm like, but what relationships would you want? And I'm like, I really have no idea. Like, as far as I'm concerned, I'm just looking at the future. And if I'm not building my own house and living in it and having a garden and pets, I don't know what I'll be doing. So, ideally, I wouldn't mind traveling a little bit more. And, like the traveling that I missed at the beginning of this year, I wouldn't mind traveling a little bit more and doing this and doing that, but essentially I'm stuck on the idea that my one of my parents has turned my future into this ideal of insult that they used to say, that you'll be living under the bridge one day. And it's like, it's turned from a remark to that's your future and all they want for you. So, basically, my peak of good credit has passed. It's all been put in destruction with the ambition that my parents' ambitions is to have everything shut down so that you can live under the bridge in the future. So that's sort of their, like, what they want for you now. And you're like, it's like, well, that's where I'm going now. Thank you. But, yeah, you're really not too close off the ground there. I mean, obviously, you're probably not going to live under a bridge ever, but literally it's like that insult is like your deemed future according to the sightseer, and you're like, fuck, you're like, screw that, I've got so many years of credit under my belt. I'm sure I can lay something together. And it's like, you have to be brave, you have to be willing to move when someone wants you to move. It's like, like, oh, I don't feel like it, COVID and everything, all these problems. Breathing on a plane is like, then you're like going, I don't know if I can do it. And it's like, this year I was lazy, but next year I might be like, that's it, you're gonna do it. You're gonna travel and be able to travel and be brave, and but I have to live. I think I should probably move on by next year, but ideally I should move on. No more lingering around other people's houses, but I don't know if I'm not in a strong position. I mean, I could do this for 5 years and be like, what am I missing out on? Just a bit of travel and sightseeing. It's like, I could do this for like 5 years and be like, it just feels like the real of my life already. But you could do it kind of comfortably, I guess. But it's like, should you? It's like, no, I shouldn't be doing that, because that's not just darn lazy. It's like, I want to be here, I want to be there, I don't want to be here stuck. And it's like, because I can't drive or anything, I'm like, I don't even have a bike, and I'm like just stuck unless someone says, I'll drive you. It's like you're just stuck where you are. You're like, you're like, this is crap. It's kind of crappy to feel that way, and now that everything's sort of deteriorated in the cooking front, it's probably gonna affect the personal relationship. And like, you spent all day gardening with this person, and they've really made a meal for themselves, and then they're like being like cold shouldered because obviously you didn't want to eat their food yesterday, but I was gonna give it a shot, but I couldn't promise that I was gonna enjoy it. So I'm just cooking for myself, but I think it's gonna lead to further discrepancies. It's like, why are you doing the gardening for someone when, you're just going to have a decrepit relationship? You should be just on the computer. It's like, I don't know, sometimes I just feel like getting outside and doing some gardening. Who knows, I might buy a place and it needs to be gardened and I've practiced, but yeah. For me, it's a bit of a leisure just to do something other than just computer work. But then I get lazy and then I'm like, well, I've been in the garden all day and it's like, oh, computer work, I'm so tired. Do feel like getting on there, but you have to, you have to make yourself. This week I don't think I'm working at all, so it's like, you have to make yourself get on that computer and start doing the things that will probably not earn you money, but could. Yeah, there's lots of stuff I can do on my computer. Jeez, if you're gonna have it like cold and crisp, you may as well try a little harder to create something appealing. Oh, that reminds me, I've got to edit my thingy. I'll do that later tonight. After tonight, I won't be watching TV with whoever, so I could do that after night at school. I think I'm awake enough for it. Yesterday I was like, I'm exhausted, I'm not gonna edit this. I was like, I've got to edit it. I'm going to put it out every month. I should be ideally doing it in the last few days before the end of the month. And it's like yesterday I was like, I know I should complete it, but I don't feel like it. So I stopped at like 10:30, 11, and then I was like, I'm going to go to bed now. So today it's like 9 o'clock. Yeah, I guess I can do a bit more and finish it. Submit it. Yeah, sure. I couldn't get on my uni yesterday to check out my course. I think I have one more module in this section, and before I'm done with it, this tutor, I'm like, I hate this tutor. I hate this website because nothing is set out so clearly like the previous, course. And I'm like going, it's so unclear. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just reading something and nothing makes sense. It's like I didn't even know how many words there were. I had to watch like the tutoring video to understand like how many words, and I just ignored the word count because I couldn't be bothered, keeping things strictly to word count. And so I've got this flyaway project that's under, I thought I read somewhere it has to be under 1,500 words. And I was like, and then on the tutoring video, they said 800 words, so $400 words per section, plus like a couple hundred more. And so I summed that up to, okay, that's like 1,000 words. And so I was like working on a 1,000 word ratio. I was like, I have no idea how I do it. I expect to fail. And I didn't indent my references, so that's a big like 20% off. And yeah, I think I'm literally like not going to pass this year. I'm like, because I'm just relearning how to submit and how to do things technically right. But if you use your student support to help read through your drafts to see that they're okay, they sometimes pick up commas and punctuation, and then you do what they say, and then the tutor says, no, this needs a comma, or this needs the different punctuation that you had deleted. And you're like going, I knew it, that's probably what I put before, I listened to this student helpline. So it's not actually very helpful to listen to the student helpline. And so now I'm like very skeptical of their advice on things like punctuation. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so difficult. You can't trust anyone. But yeah, I want to get through some courses. I've outlined 25 courses I wouldn't mind trying. So since my earnings is completely down the toilet, I wouldn't mind doing them, while your earnings aren't there. But I'm really concerned about my living, like where I live. I'm concerned that I should be moving as opposed to staying. And I'm concerned about staying too long and missing out on what I could be doing if I weren't staying here. So those are a little bit of worries. So I sort of do invite the idea of moving on because we have an argument. But I know that if I move on from here, I'll be like completely alone forever. And I'm like, because I've lost total support on all other branches. And this is like my last support level. And so if we have a blowout and I move on, it's like, never go back, and never, care. Never go back. You just have to be, independent and try really hard, like harder than usual, and see how things go. But I've tried that so many times already, and all the times like I end up broke. So I don't know. I just have to try and be smart, I guess. I think people were able to delete my study records because I stopped studying for a while. So I'm trying to consistently study for forever and ever, and so that you can and not living with people to steal your stuff, so that things like educational certificates and stuff, things that are important to you, go missing. It's like all my stuff has been stolen. I only have whatever's left over, and the point of thumb is just live by yourself. Don't live with other people. Don't try and house share and share apartments. I know it's so much cheaper, but it's no good. You just lose all your belongings again, and I've totally lost my whole entire belongings, and that's like losing your life, because otherwise you haven't existed and on your realm. And so that's all my stuff, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's my important stuff, like things that I'll never have again. And you're like going, that sucks, because a lot of effort and time. When I was a teenager, I lost $5 million worth of gold sheets that I wasn't able to transfer into cash like the advertisement says. And so someone stole them, or they carelessly threw them away and someone else stole them. Either way, I lost all that gold cheating, and for me that felt like a loss. And then years later, I lose all my personal belongings, and then I get the same feeling, like I just lost like everything that I was treasuring. Like, this is all my real stuff, and I was like, so annoying. So hopefully I'll just like, even if I have to live degenerate cheap, hopefully I can just do that. And like I said, I'm thinking about building my own house, because I can't afford $500,000 worth of housing. I can afford $100,000 worth of friggin' bricks and cement, and you're like going, let's build my own house again, or get a cheap wood house and do it over with stucco, or whatever, until you've got like what I used to have was like this stuccoed building that looked nice with courtyards that can look quite elegant when you're just working with wood. Yeah. But anyway, I'll have to see later. I did notice when I was traveling, I was looking up on the internet, land, and there were some places that had cheap land, but I think they're in hilly areas where they get disastrous storms. And some of the areas are in bushfire zones. I've lived in bushfire zones that are scary as anything, because fire is it's just a line of assault like the fire is really like a firing line. It's like an enemy army approaching, and it just blazes through everywhere. You can combat that with a really high surrounding brick wall. So that, hopefully the wall blocks the fire from touching your property, because a wall with a little moat, like ideally if you do a 1 to 2 meter moat, or usually 1 to 1.5 moat, that can discourage fires from touching the wall and then touching a property. Or you can do a 20 centimeter stream in front of the wall, to help discourage the fire, which is going to be further discouraged from the wall. Then have behind the wall another 20 centimeter stream, or 1 meter, depending on whatever. You have to have a couple of special tanks for that, especially if you're living in the country, but reserved for the use in like aqueducts, kind of idea. But it's doable because I've done that before, and that helps to discourage fire from getting to your property if you're living in a bushfire zone. So you've got those sorts of ideas that wander out. Putting large boulders around the place can sometimes discourage storms and sometimes cyclones a little. I've put fiberglass. Is it fiberglass? These fake stones, they're quite good to put on balconies or around your front near the house, and they're really good wind protection. I mean, they're expensive as anything, but they're really quite durable in weather. Not necessarily in bushfires, but for wind, they're good. I've had them before, and you're like, oh my gosh, these things are like, it's like putting a terracotta pot, in your garden. It's like, they're really good at wind. You just fill it up with dirt, put plants in it. It's a wonderful decoration, but it's also a good wind, protects your place from wind. And also I found those little plants, what are they called? They're succulents. They're really good. You just put a bunch of them together. They look amazing, but they're good wind protectants too. So, got all these ideas if you're in weather problems. But I know, but like I said, I was looking at these places, and I'm like, I'm sure I need a car, number one, but I think they're in nice areas that get lots of natural disasters, like whether it's cyclones or tornadoes or bushfires. I'm pretty sure, and I'm like, don't have to brave for that. How about we check out suburbs? And suburbs are super expensive. And I'm thinking of giving away the idea of freaking buying an expensive house, and just, all my houses are freaking expensive unless you go country. I'm thinking about just building my own house. I don't know, but I don't see how I can afford anything much. But things could turn. If things turn around and I can actually afford a nice house, I'd sort of bookmark new properties. But I've had so many properties, it's no funny. Like, I haven't been able to settle any of them because of the weather. I'm not that productive with cash. I have some cash sometimes, I don't have it other times, and I'm like, and I'm definitely not going to have a relationship, no one to look after you, and so you're like, just have to see how you go, I guess. Move the boat going and start in a rental and see how that goes. Ideally, if you could rent forever, if you could get that steady stream of income. But nothing's as good as your own house, because on your own house you can tinker with the building. It's like We just had floods, so it's not flood proof enough. With rentals, you can't do tinkering. You have to just put up with the crappy house, and you're like, it's not flood proof enough. It's not like blah blah enough. Like sometimes you have really bad rentals. Literally, like alligators can break your windows, and when they tap their like snouts on it, and it's like, and you're like going, alligators broken. Like people try and blame you, like, how did this window break? And you're like, alligators. You know, during a flood, alligators came up to the window and started knocking on it with their stupid snouts. And they're like, that's really unbelievable. And so if you haven't recorded it, you'll be put for blame and have to pay for it. But if you record it, they're like, oh my gosh, that is an alligator tapping. And sometimes people chuck you out by that time of the rental. Other times people just fix the window and say, of course, you know, we now believe you that you've had an alligator burst your window. And it's like, why did I get a dinner call? I'm making my own dinner, right?